Okay, before we get into the epicness that is Skar King's weapon that he had draped over his shoulder, can we appreciate this thumbnail Goji Center made? Look how sexy they made Skar King look on the thumbnail. Oh my god, that's ridiculous. I'm a heterosexual man and I'm having thoughts. Why'd they make him look so ridiculous on the thumbnail? That's gonna be a good video. Leave a like, subscribe to Goji Center, and let's get into it. I may have gotten distracted during that introduction right there.
Godzilla Kong will feature a duel between two of the most dexterous titans in the Monsterverse.
Dexterous?
On one end, the ape titan known for its superb leaping abilities, high intelligence, and weapon-wielding capabilities, Titanus Kong, King of Hollow Earth. Or
King of Hollow Earth.
GXK brings forth a new adversary, possibly surpassing Kong in all of the mentioned attributes, a tyrant of larger proportions than
Look
Kong,
at this guy,
ruling over an empire of blood. This is Skar King. But will Kong's weapons give him an edge? Will this gauntlet grant him an edge over Skar King's whiplash? In this episode, we will discuss
the it's a freaking Warbat spinal cord. No way!
And find out whether
That's
or not
genius.
Kong will be able to steal the title of King from his adversary.
It's so genius because according to my Goji Center size chart back there, the Warbat is by far the longest Kaiju. It's like 2 times longer than any other Kaiju. It's the most genius whip to have. Oh, you Goji Center geniuses.
Coming up, Kong's weapons versus Skar King's whip slash explained. To begin, we'll quickly cover Kong's current weapon, the Battle Axe, which is comprised of a long bone, possibly a femur of another titan, and the dorsal plate of a Gojira specimen. This weapon, apart from serving as an axe, also possesses several abilities such as harnessing Hollow Earth energy and even atomic breath. While charged, this weapon is heated and capable of cutting through extremely hardened materials such as Mechagodzilla's titanium alloy. Even while not hardened, this weapon can pierce stone. But one of the things that sets this axe apart from the weaponry used in the past by Kong is the fact that weapons such as these can inflict high piercing power thanks to its mechanics. In close combat, battle axes have always been notorious for their ability to inflict deep wounds thanks to the weight of the blade in comparison with the lighter handle. This counterweight of sorts multiplies the force of the arm swing. All of this energy will now be inflicted on the very small surface area of an axe, the blade's edge.
It is freaking remarkable how easily that blade cut into Godzilla's leg. He had like a huge gash, dude. He could have cut off Godzilla's head.
With Kong's axe, however, this serves not only as a blade, but also a pickaxe of sorts.
Minecraft.
Since the surface area of these tips is much smaller than that of a bladed edge. The result, deep, fatal wounds if hit in the correct area.
Right there, baby.
If Kong manages to connect. As lethal as these weapons sound, there are huge drawbacks with using a battle axe. First off, because of the weighted blade, the result of missing a target is the weight of the blade pulling the wielder down, exposing the combatant to attack from the opponent.
How is he not cold?
More likely against an agile foe, and it just so happens that Kong will likely face just that.
Ooh.
Now, under what circumstance will Kong use this gauntlet, and how will this give Kong the edge? The use of this apparatus seems to serve 2 purposes, for offense and as a brace of sorts. Recall that in this clip, we witness an already evolved Godzilla alongside a Kong with this glove, suggesting that Kong 1. Lost the axe, and 2. Also used this apparatus as an upgrade. Kong possibly lost this axe against Skar King and was maybe injured in the act, but how?
That's exactly what happened.
Skar King made Kong lose his weapon and possibly get handicapped. Skar King, as we've seen him so far, is possibly much taller than Kong. Not necessarily more robust, but given his time in the Hollow Earth, this guy probably belongs to a battle-hardened species whose way of life is combat. Against a more powerful and experienced foe, it is no secret that Kong will already be at a huge disadvantage against Skar King and his kind.
I feel like Skar King's absolutely come in contact with those axes before since it was in Hollow Earth. I feel like that was like a common weapon of the Kong people. That's why he has the whip to like disarm them.
This gets pushed further with the presence of this weapon, a whip. Officially referred to as a whip slash, this word itself might give us further clues as to how this weapon is actually used. Note that this is not a whip lash, which by definition is the flexible part of the whip. But why does Skar King wield a whip and not any other weapon? There are many reasons for this.
Bro's a slave master of Shimo.
Skar King in many of the recently revealed merchandise states that this guy rules over a fiery kingdom wielding this whip. In the trailer, we witnessed many great ape titans possibly belonging to Kong's species being held, maybe against their will, skill by Skar King and his kind. This whip of sorts may indicate that Skar King uses this as a tool also, a tool which can be used to subjugate other titans. Whips throughout time have been a symbol of subjugation and forced servitude under a tyrannical force, with the mentioned weapon used to beat down on insubordinate individuals, used as a tool for punishment or even executions. But are whips used as weapons? They
Look
can
at these
be,
two guys.
but the use of whips is reserved for those who are extremely dexterous with lots of practice.
This fight, I was like, oh, we're about to see some epic whip combat. And then they both just start helicoptering each other with absolutely zero skill or technique. And there's like a naked dude in the background. What is going on here?
Whips is reserved for those who are extremely
I'm just gonna let
dexterous
it
with
play out.
lots of practice, which are attributes of Skar King. Whips in combat are rarely used, and it takes a really practiced arm and hand to use one with purpose. The lash section of the whip forms a U shape once whipped. This U shape travels down the length of the whip until it gets to this very small tip. What makes the cracking sound is just the tip. Why? Because it moves so fast that it surpasses the sound barrier.
That's
This
insane.
phenomenon is known as conservation of energy. A whip with a weighted tip instead of a loose string will allow this weapon to not only strike victims and injure them, but also latch onto things. In this case, weapons, limbs, or even the neck of some opponents. That's assuming this whip is shaped like this.
I did not
Thicker on the
realize
handle
whips were
and
this
thinner on the
extravagant.
striking end. But if we look closely, Skar King's whip slash seems to be built a lot differently. How does this affect combat? Let's find out. Enjoying this episode? Please don't forget to subscribe and check out our newly released merch series inspired by GXK.
Every time I freaking leave this website, they have another epic shirt. I already ordered the two on the left. I think I'm gonna order the two on the right. I don't know. Definitely the one on the far right. I'm collecting these like freaking Pokemon
Got our
cards.
newly released merch series inspired by GXK. Links below. The physics between these two different whip shapes will vary a lot thanks to two key differences, their composition and the obvious weighted tip. Skar King's whip seems to be composed of a long serpentine vertebrate skeleton, perhaps belonging to a warbat or another long reptile.
Gotta be a
This is
warbat.
fastened together by either ligaments that are preserved within the vertebrae or by some sort of roping fashioned by this great ape. The result is a flexible whip-like tool capable of transferring energy similar to these whips. The key difference, however, is
Look at her
this
go.
section of the weapon, a titan's jaw. This could be either that of a warbat, given the presence of these two fangs on the
Gotta
bottom
be a
jaw,
warbat, it's
or
gotta
the
be.
same jawbone from an animal of this unknown species. The point is that unlike your traditional whip, all the kinetic energy transferred down this whip will now be transferred to this jawbone, not a small tip. This causes a totally different type of damage. The business end of a regular
Yeah, that's
whip
gonna
is a
rip
very
somebody in
small
half right there.
counterweight, or something as thin as a string. A proficient wielder can accurately take out something as small as an eye or simply lacerate with the tip. But
Small
this
as an
whip
eye?
now has a skull. And Skar King merch images do confirm where this weapon is gripped from, revealing that this is indeed that striking part of the weapon. Once whipped, this
What a
kinetic
horrible
energy
toy.
will most likely reach these fangs. If these land on a fleshy surface, they will most definitely cut. But there's
Fleshy
more to this
surface.
particular jawbone. If this is indeed a warbat, this whip may do more than just cut, but also pierce armor.
Oh my god, I
Why?
didn't even think of that.
Warbats are known to have fangs that can pierce through armored vehicles, meaning that this weapon could be lethal if it lands on the right area, such as the head of another kaiju.
Oh no,
Who
not a
knows how many
crawler.
titans have met their demise at the end of this weapon? This brings us back to Kong, who will most definitely be introduced to Skar King's whip slash.
Oh, he's gonna
In
get
a
his hand grabbed by a
confrontation
whip for
between
sure.
Kong and Skar King, one of the most important things to consider is reach. Skar King arguably has longer reach already thanks to his longer arms and possibly taller stature. This whip slash makes things even more difficult, making Kong unable to reach Skar
Look at
King
that,
unless
ridiculous.
he throws his weapon and in the act disarms himself. A common counter against a combatant holding a whip is disarming him by allowing the whip to wrap around the arm and pulling back. Here, the mechanics of this weapon make it difficult to allow that without potentially injuring yourself first.
That's the
thanks
thing.
to the fanged jaw at the tip.
Gnarly.
This jaw, and in this case a weighted tip, will make it easier for this to wrap around objects, potentially disarming Kong. So here's where Kong may possibly lose his weapon
Kong is so
and get
screwed.
injured. After all, this
Poor
glove
monkey.
is seen to be on Kong's right hand, which is his arm of choice when wielding the axe. In the film, Kong will likely lose his weapon, get injured, and require some sort of help. This introduces us to the Beast Glove. The acronym BEAST stands for Bioenhanced Anatomic Seismic Thunder Glove. There's a lot
Thunder
to
Glove,
unpack
there it is,
here,
baby.
But to begin this weapon
There
breakdown,
it
we'll
is.
begin with the bioenhanced part. Bioenhancement implies that this glove will be aided by Kong himself, enhancing his earth-shattering strength and making each impact even more powerful. Anatomic probably refers to the mechanization of Kong's arm thanks to this glove. Again, if Kong did indeed get this arm injured, this glove serves as an anatomical aid. Fastened around the forearm, wrist, and secured around each tip of the finger, these brass knuckles basically harden the striking end of the clenched fist.
I love the
So
Monarch
instead
logo.
of getting hit by a mixture of skin, flesh, and bone, this Beast Glove removes any soft tissue from the equation, making this an even more critical hit. But this weapon just gets more interesting. The S and T of this acronym stand for Seismic Thunder. If these extra hard punches weren't enough, a glove capable of amplifying impact force to something that can shake the ground violently will most definitely cause some pretty serious damage to a kaiju like Skar King.
Ooh,
In fact, some
damn.
of the figure descriptions describing this Beast Glove claim that this weapon inflicts hits similar to meteor impacts with every punch.
That's
Not to
insane.
mention any possible electrical element that may transfer deadly amounts of electric shocks to the victim. So, will this weapon be enough to neutralize Skar
Glove.
King's whip slash? Unfortunately, this weapon still does not solve the matter of having less reach than the whip. However, this arm will now be armored enough to possibly aid in catching the end of this whip without incurring any damage this time. Note that Kong is no stranger to ball and chain type weaponry. In fact, he was pretty good at using flexible weighted weapons back when he was a teenager. Maybe Kong has a few lessons to teach Skar King after all.
Oh, damn,
Note
I'm
that
excited.
This may not be all Skar King's whip can do. Perhaps there's another kaiju that Skar King controls with this whip. Something about this whip seems to be lacking. We'll cover this unknown secret in a later episode and discuss a new kaiju that may be involved with this missing part.
Ooh.
Subscribe to not miss any more episodes on GXK and your favorite kaiju. See you in the next episode.
This was an epic video. Everyone subscribe to Goji Center right now. They're so great. Also, on a side note, this Call of Duty event, I made so many videos claiming that this was bullcrap. I could not have been more wrong. Basically, this could have just been anything. There was so many other cave paintings in this entire DLC or this entire event that it was like, I don't know. I just didn't think this cave painting was anything, but holy crap, I've never been more wrong. Unbelievable. Either way, leave a like on the video for more Godzilla stuff. Subscribe to Goji Center as well, and I'll see you next time.